Last day of February. Okay, so this is the Finance Committee. We're going to call the meeting to order because we're being taped. It's my obligation to tell you that. If you have any taping that you would like to do, please let the chair know. And I don't know what I'm supposed to do if somebody does come up and say that, but no problem. And we have a fairly simple agenda tonight, but it covers a lot of ground. So our agenda is to have our first look at the town meeting warrant. We have a guest, so I'm going to ask for you to come forward first, and we'll answer your question first, and then there's nobody else here from the public other than our town administrator, Chris Clark, and we'll just go from there. If you want to have a seat.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Give us your name. And
my name's Matt Sutphin. I'm at the Lavender Farm in Harwich Center. Thank you for giving me a few minutes. I came here to educate myself a little bit about, or have a keener understanding of what the Finance Committee's purview is. Now it seems like it seems pretty obvious it's money, but it's for me it's it's where the money goes and how it goes. It's not the money, and I've got more interested in town finances last year when the snack bar came up for the town, and I thought it was a poor use of town funds, and it caused me to focus further on a subsequent article, which is the pet cemetery. So the question in my mind is the Finance Committee basically saying if somebody comes up with a good idea and you can justify it, well, you'll give it the stamp? Or is it that you'll do the hard number with a sharp pencil to justify the cost benefit? And that's the question I have here. I see the snack bar as a $600,000-$700,000 expenditure, and maybe you're going to get $1,330 a month rents. Maybe you're not. I don't know. But it just didn't. It seemed out of place, particularly with other restaurants paying taxes to support the town. But the one that got to me is the pet cemetery.
okay. Rather than just keep.
Well, I'm going to explain why what I need. What I need.
All right.
I'm only here to tell you what I need. I don't want to be. I don't want to lord over you or anything. But my problem is that I picked up today's paper about the pet cemetery, and then down under there's this $30, $40, $50 million surprise, escalating costs to do a sewer system, of which Harwich will pay part of it. I think we all know that indexed money is becoming telephone money. I mean, the numbers are getting big. And that requires choices to be made. Some things are elective and some things are necessary. We know schools are necessary. We know roads are necessary. But we don't necessarily know that pet cemeteries and snack bars are necessary. And that's that's the question I have before you. Are those numbers going to be analyzed with a sharp pen, or are they going to be, is the sense of the community going to basically be how you're going to move forward? I think everybody would know that the pet cemetery, which was adopted with less than a quorum, I'm told, and I don't want to.
No.
But something close to less than a quorum.
Go ahead.
Was never. The other sides of it were never really considered, which are that the town has plenty of land. It doesn't need, the pet cemetery never needed to be there. I don't know if anybody advocated it for somewhere else, and I'm not going to beat up the past. But what I'm going to say is we're in the moment and we're in the future. And if that can be 3 or 4 lots and that can gross $1 million, why shouldn't the pet cemetery be somewhere else? And I guess that was the question. I'm interested in knowing whether or not this board wants to analyze, do the numbers on a gross $1 million, plow it into debt, and go find another piece of ground to put some granite plaques on. I mean, I think it's very simple. Here we've got millions of dollars required, a town with, I believe, half the houses that don't require services but 2 or 3 months a year. So we're chasing money, and half of our resource doesn't require services. I mean, that's a scary thought in the first place. So that's why I'm here, and I don't want to belabor my stay. I just am keen to understand that this board, some people on the board, would do the critical numbers and say, here's $1 million we can throw against debt, or throw somewhere and then go find another place for a pet cemetery, because the town has loads of acres for pet cemetery. It could go across the street, probably. So I don't want to belabor myself, but you get the sense of it is,
Yep.
are you doing the numbers, or are you going along with the sense of the community, the sense of the Board of Selectmen? That's my question.
All right, so anybody can chime in, but I'll take a stab at answering what we are and what we're supposed to do. The Finance Committee is created in every town, basically, that has money over $1 million, and it turns out in today's world, every town has over $1 million. So it's basically created in every town. And here we have a couple of functions. One is to manage the reserve fund. Within the budget each year, there's a reserve fund, and we manage that for departments that are short or whatever. So that's part of our function. And our biggest role probably this time of year is to advise town meeting on the selectmen's warrant. Selectmen produce a warrant. This year it has 70 questions in it, and our job is to advise them on every question. And I can just tell you from years of experience that we just try the best we can to give the best advice we can. We're trying to advise you how to spend your money and provide the services and those kinds of things that we want.
Right.
And each person is charged with going out and finding out what they think they need to answer these questions, and we will take positions on every one of these articles. And in our version of the warrant, our vote is captured. Like tonight, we'll be writing down what the vote is. Right now, there's 2, 4, 6, 7 of us. It'll be 7-0, or 2-3, or 3-4, or whatever it is, a couple of abstentions. We record our vote, and we're also required to put a reason in the warrant as to why we voted that way. So not only do we have a vote, but we have a position on there as well. And we consider everything that we can possibly consider when we make that decision, because it's an important decision for us to advise the town meeting on what to do. Whether it agrees with everybody or not is not our problem. Our problem is to advise the town meeting as to what to do. So we go through the exercise. We go through tons of paper. We do lots of research. People have been at it through the course of since we ended the last town meeting. We basically start our work on the next town meeting. We've done lots of workshops. We've been preparing ourselves. We have tons of documentation, and we're starting tonight for the first time going through the selectmen's warrant. The selectmen have voted all but about 9. Now they're down to about 3 or 4, but 3. They've voted along, but there's certain ones they didn't get done in time for me to post this, so there's certain ones that we have tonight that are on hold. So if you look at our agenda, there's certain articles we're not going to talk about tonight.
Right.
But we're going to start at the top, and we're going to work our way down through and see how far we get. And we're going to have a position and a reason for every article.
Okay. Well,
Between now and when we go to print.
well, I thank you for that, for your time. Obviously, I keep hoping that there'll be a weather eye towards elective versus necessary.
Yeah, and that's, I'll just make one editorial comment. This is from me, and the others can say whatever they want. Town meeting decides what businesses we want to be into. We collect over $10 million worth of revenues from many different businesses in town that people do or do not partake in, that we don't have to necessarily be in any of them. A lot of towns privatize their ambulances, but we're in the ambulance business. A lot of towns have golf courses. A lot of towns don't have golf courses. We have a golf course. We have harbors. We're unfortunate. We're on the ocean. We have harbors. We have bocce courts, we have pickleball courts, we have food vendors, we have restaurants, we have at the golf course and now going to be at the harbor. We have all kinds of businesses that town meeting has said, yes, go ahead, go forward with this. And it doesn't necessarily appeal to all of the members of the community. Sometimes we have an entire cultural center down there that we've opened up to people with small incubating kind of businesses and different arts and so forth. So the town can be in any business it wants to. The town of Bourne has a campgrounds and a hockey rink.
Yeah.
There's another town I know of that has a hotel that they run. So you can be in any business you want. The town meeting says you're in.
Well, thank you. My only rejoinder would be that the town would recognize you all as the Finance Committee,
Yes.
so that when we run out of money, they'll might be wondering what was up with the Finance Committee. I guess
Won't
what I'm
have any-
saying is the focus needs, I hope your focus is finance, not just
And
the
we also-
general populace, the sense of the populace.
We also have in our bylaws that we will, and the charter, that we will have to weigh in on every article, even when it's considered a no-charge article.
Well,
Angelo.
I don't want to beat you
Just
up.
a couple of things. I think you should know that places like the golf course and the waterways finance themselves.
Oh, I do know, I do know that,
That's piece one.
yeah.
And what the state says is whatever revenue they generate, they should be spending on themselves. We sometimes don't do that, I don't think, but that's our case.
Yeah.
Now, this year, because of having not spent their money on, for a number of years, it took a lot to fix the things that had been not broken for a long time.
Mhm.
So that's why you've seen so much slowing there. The need for either a snack bar or a restaurant is that we're a major landing place for people if they're going in Tucket and whatnot, and come to this town to eat, to buy flowers, to do whatever they want to do, and you have to treat that as a business. Most of the, if you get off in Nantucket, by the time you get to the parking lot, you've gone through 5 restaurants, because they know something that he's not taking advantage of. Grouping of restaurants together is not bad for the restaurant that's there, it actually increases the business. It brings in a ton more people. So in my view, I wish there were restaurants there, so I'm sorry about that.
No.
The other thing that I would suggest we strongly do is chase after everybody in the town to have them do sources and use budget for each business. It's like a P&L.
Mhm.
So you can then tell what each department is actually spending and costing town, et cetera. And you'd be amazed at some of the numbers that will come up.
Thank you for bringing that up. I recognize that. I know that there were these enterprise zones, of course. You got the harbor, the golf course, the water department. You even have the dump. I noticed that there's a whole lot of money that's being made by contractors dumping material at the dump, paying well for it, and a heck of a big number that's being generated. But that doesn't that's not necessarily going to be, looking forward, a constant. And so if you rely on these little blooms of resource, it seems like the perception can be somewhat diminished as to just where one really is. I unfortunately at one point had a restaurant. And I say unfortunately, but I mean, the point is, the gross is deceptive. You can take half the contracts and end up with more money if you're smart about how you go about it. And so I hate the thought that we're being seduced by gross receipts from a pet cemetery or a snack bar or anything else for that matter, because over time, I don't think that plays. Anything constructed eventually is a liability. I used to build houses. Cheapest thing over time is build the cost of the house. It's the maintenance, it's the carry, it's the soft costs, it's all that stuff that aggregates over time and has to be reconciled.
Well, the good news is town meeting's going to decide this and,
Well, I'm talked too much, but I'm grateful, I'm grateful for your time. and,
no, you're welcome anytime.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Matt.
We have a lot more to do, and I think,
Thank you.
Thank you.
the way I set this meeting up, if I could, because this is an extra one, Saturday, we're doing the all-day budget hearing. I'll bring coffee and donuts and little treats for everybody, maybe some fruit or whatever, but,
I have,
there'll
Bob
be
Lawton,
a
Bob Lawton was gonna
lunch.
grab some coffee, so if you don't wanna do it, someone is covered it, but.
there'll be also
Point that out
a
to you.
lunch served, and we're there all day, but I'm really glad we could get a quorum together tonight, and thank you for all for coming, and we're just gonna start at number one and go through as many of these as we can, and you'll see I clearly marked some of the ones that are on hold. John?
Just before you get started, Dana, a couple meetings ago, you asked for receipt of
Yes, yeah. Yeah.
conflict of interest things.
Yeah.
There's mine.
I still
don't know
have
if I
two
missed
left.
it.
I have
I got you
yours.
at the last meeting.
Signed. Yeah, I got that. So, I'll get that. That's not,
And then the next thing is, Matt's still here. Matt has proposed a warrant article, number 57, which is required, the article, the nutshell of the article requires Board of Selectmen and Finance Committee to record individual votes when we vote on warrant articles. In the past, it's just, 6-0, 6-2,
Yeah.
6-1. Anticipating that it will pass at town meeting, I've got no problem being the clerk, is recording those individual votes now, if our board agrees. If we have,
you can do it for practice as far as I'm
Yeah.
concerned, but it's not a rule yet.
no, but, and
Right, yeah.
anticipating and trying to be, transparent, or,
Just, Mr. Chairman, in terms of, FinCom records all their votes, and that's in the book, that makes it into the book.
but not individually. I think.
The request,
No,
the
no, no,
request,
Just to be clear, because the request is to have the Board of Selectmen have their votes also in the book.
Right.
so Matt, you're satisfied with what we're doing now in terms of recording our vote, 3 to 4, or 7 to 6, or?
Yes, Mr. Clark enlightened me to the fact that you do keep minutes and you do keep record individual votes, which is great. I'm delighted to hear that.
Okay.
My interest is in when the warrant is published, let those individual votes be part of the article, so that the community can get a sense of where people might be on the fence, 3-2, 4-1, whatever. See, it comes to us as if you're the experts in finance, and we should go with you or go against you.
Yep.
It's a yin and yang, and it's not a good departure point for a discussion or conversation about the merits.
Well,
So, my article, for what it's worth, that I'll get out of your hair, is simply to put on the record, for any given article, three guys say yay and 2 guys say nay, and somebody in the audience will say, gee, this is kind of close, what's it all about?
right.
That's
There
what
is,
I'm interested in.
if you know how government by committee works, there is such thing as asking for a minority report, and that can certainly be given at any point by the Finance Committee if somebody were to ask. A minority report is usually, the reporter is requested to do 2 things. First, to make it clear that it's a minority report, and the person given the minority report should say that you should vote with the majority. So those are required in a minority report. So,
But just to be clear, it's actually Article 56, and it is, and I'm just gonna go right from the wording of it. Will vote to require individual voting records of the selectmen and finance committee members as recorded in the minutes relevant to the meetings. So the selectmen's meetings, we do record all the votes, we do not publish them in the warrant. That is a Board of Selectmen's decision that they made, that they don't wanna have them published.
Yep.
That doesn't mean another board could change that. I mean, that's certainly within each purview. At least in the time I've been here, they have not voted to have their votes in the book, so.
yep.
FinCom
Well,
already does
John,
do
if you're
that.
willing to keep track this
Yeah, I
time
think-
around, but right now, as long as I have a sheet here that I'm gonna write the reasons in as we go.
Okay.
It has yes and no's, and we'll put abstain in there when we need them. All right, thank you.
very much. I soaked up your time.
No, thank you for coming.
The first, go ahead, Mr. Clark.
If you don't mind, just so we're all on the same, I always think it's important to make sure we're all on the same sheet of music.
Yes,
So
Yeah.
one of the articles was taken out, so the numbers have changed.
yeah,
So what you
I had the wrong
have
sheet.
tonight is, that's why I kind of, when you said that, I wanted to flag that.
Yeah.
The one that was removed, I think it was number 20, it was an article that, on the wastewater, that we thought we may have to do easements for drainage,
the one-liners that I handed out is up to date.
including Monday nights.
Yes.
Okay, so the Board of Selectmen, on what I passed out this evening, which was just put together this afternoon, has all the articles that the Board of Selectmen have voted to put on, with 3 exceptions. They have not yet, no, they haven't taken a decision on either, any of these articles. They just voted to put them on the warrant or not on the warrant. That's it. So the decision about whether they support or not support has not yet been made. But they did not vote Article 4, which is acceptance of the provision of Mass General Law 64G.
Yep,
And then the 2 on the 37 and 38 on the list of the index on mine, or Sandy's, I should say. 37 and 38 are amendments to the Harwich Home Rule Charter, Capital Outlay Plan, and amendments to the ex officio members of the charter relevant to clarifying terms of office. So everything else has been voted, because I think,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, you had yours out Thursday, and they made some of these decisions Monday night.
Yep.
So you would not have had an opportunity to put those on.
as far as this meeting goes, the posting, I specifically said in the front that we would not talk about the 8 or 9 articles that they had a week ago that were on hold, and I've marked those clearly in the posting, so we're not gonna talk about any of those tonight, so.
And just on the posting, there was some question about it. It's 732 Main Street. You had 132 Main Street, and also it said, well, believe it or not,
Yeah, I know, I
there's some case
understand.
law out there that we want to get 730. You had Town Hall, which I think that defect was fine, because Town Hall is Town Hall. So that is 732 Main Street. And then it said, I think it was the wrong day. It said Monday as opposed to Thursday. But people noticed, so we just have to be careful with our postings.
Yep. It's my first year doing this in quite a while. Yes, Angelo?
Today, do you want us to discuss and vote on whether we support the article, or just, that's what you want? And then on Saturday,
We're doing the budgets. Saturday is just for us to gather information, so if you have questions on any of the items or whatever, I mean, we're gonna get to the budget articles tonight, but obviously I don't think we're in a position yet to vote those.
okay,
We're gonna at least get to them to talk about them.
okay.
You good?
No.
How's that?
So are we're voting on the articles tonight?
Sure, why not? Let's get through as many as we can start. I mean, there's a bunch that are easy, right? The first one is town officers and committees. Are we gonna support that or not support that? Would be the first question, so I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion, we accept Article 1?
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous vote. It's 2, 4, 6, 7. 7 to 1, 7 to 0.
That's what I was doing, the count myself, so I can help you record them.
All right. Article 2 is town offices and committees. Another customary article that's in there every year and gives us the opportunity to,
I'd like
Well,
to
one
make a-
was town offices, the second is the reports.
yeah, reports of town offices and committees.
I would like to make a motion that we accept Article 2, to hear and report of all town officers and committees for the year 2018, customary article.
Second.
Discussion on that one? What the chair has done in the past is done a draft report that they send out to everybody and then gets comments from everybody and then puts it all into one report to give as far as the actual speech on town meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous, 7-0. Okay, to set the salary of the elected officials, they're all the same except for the town clerk. Town clerk has a large increase again this year. Do you want to give a thumbnail on that one, or?
It's just two things that changed in this last year at town meeting. The FinCom had put forth a increase to the selectmen's salary, so now I think it was 1,000 last year, or was it 1,500, and now moved up to 2,400. So that's a change. The moderator also went up, so this year reflects all that. And on the town clerk last year was put into our non-union salary schedule, and this is where she would slot in the non-union salary schedule.
Right. And I guess on that note, I'll just say that when we were talking Monday night about upcoming things that need to be fixed in the charter says that town meeting will set the salary of elected officials. And, you know, they're voting a number and not necessarily a range. So each year, there's going to be an actual number like there is this year in there. And I don't know if at some point the town charter needs to be fixed on that, but I would certainly recommend it for that. I mean, my own personal preference that we look at it as an appointment rather than an elected official, but that's down the road.
Right, that's a different topic.
Just
Just to remind, last year in crafting the warrant, the motion with Attorney Giorgio, there was two things that was done. One was we still set the salary assuming that the incumbent would be back. But we also said that it would be someone, if someone newly elected, then they would fall within a certain range in the non-union schedule. So it's not necessarily for, the incumbent is already slotted into the program, if you would, but if somebody were to be elected, then it would have to be slotted in there. And that was part of the motion last year.
That's where I disagree, because the charter says town meeting's going to set that salary, not the town administrator, or not somebody slotting it into a spot, not somebody else picking it. Town meeting's going to pick that salary. And if you got 4 people running with different various degrees,
Right.
you're not going to be able, according to the charter, be able to put that salary in. Town meeting's going to pick a number.
Number one,
We
I
need to
didn't
fix it.
volunteer for this.
Mr. Brown?
Point of order. I think we should make a motion in a second and then have a discussion.
Okay, yeah, you're right, absolutely right. Is there, you're right. Salaries for elected officials. Is there a motion?
I make a motion that we accept the article.
Okay, this is a no-charge article, that's, the monies are actually contained in the budget. The-
Yeah.
Okay, and your motion would be at the levels that's
Specified.
specified by the town administrator. Discussion on that, sorry.
May I just ask a question?
You may.
Because I assume that the people at town meeting are going to ask a question. 101,000 is a lot of money for people to look at. How does that stack up against the police chief, the fire chief, you know, I don't, who else you want to bring up?
People in that group, you mean?
Yeah, because, I
just-
mean, if the fire chief is $300,000, you know, I understand this, but if he's only $30,000, I've got a problem, I'm obviously exaggerating.
Well, you have the answer tonight.
One of the responsibilities of the town administrator is put together kind of the personnel, to make sure we get the personnel right. And what we do on the non-union scale, which she's really a non-union employee, not eligible for unionization because she's an elected official, we actually look and we do what's called a market rate analysis. So we see what are other town clerks making on the Cape, and is she competitive to that salary? And believe it or not, in terms of the range, she is on the higher end of the range, but she also has more experience than almost anyone else on the Cape. So to slot her on the high end of the range is, in my opinion, very appropriate to where she is.
And Dana in particular led the effort last year so we could make this recommendation last year. Put the numbers together. checked the various places, so.
I'm not.
No, I'm just saying,
It's just,
there was some research.
Yep.
Just because she is the senior clerk of the Cape, and if this is, because she's non-union, because she's elected, but if she was union, she would get the raises right along because of her seniority.
Yeah.
So, to me, this is the fact that we entrust her because we elect her. And if this is in line with what, the rest of the Cape is getting, then I got no problem with that.
It definitely is, in my opinion, it's an equitable approach. To your point, it's a great point, that if it's a union contract, then usually, we generally settle contracts for 3 years, and there's usually a set amount in there. Non-union people are year to year, so they don't get adjusted unless the selectmen vote it year to year.
So my question is, if she's non-union, are the rest of the town clerks on Cape non-union? That's the first question.
Probably yes and no. And the reason why I say that is it's about a half split, so half are elected. So you can't, to my knowledge, you can't be an elected official and be in a union. I don't think I've
Okay.
ever seen that in all my experience, so you can't have that. Half of them are appointed, so appointed people could theoretically be in a union.
Okay, and we know that she's the most senior, we've already established that, and could be approaching retirement, we don't know, but she could be. Say she does, and we have to elect somebody new, and somebody new comes on with maybe 5 years' experience, are we gonna give them the 101, or what do they get? I need to understand.
This part of
That part I don't understand.
The recommendation that was made last year as part of the motion was exactly that. What happens if you have two people apply, one has 20 years' experience, one has 5? Generally, and, for better or for worse, I'm the personnel administrator in the community. So if somebody, we have a 10-step plan, so 10 salary steps. If somebody comes in with 5 years' experience, they would probably start at 2 or 3 in the steps. If somebody comes with 20 years' experience, you probably start them at 7 or 8. So generally, you have that, you want to have someone that has experience that comes in and can hit the ground running, would be at the higher end of the scale. Somebody that has a learning curve would come in on the lower end of the scale.
Mr. McManus, Selectman McManus, welcome.
Yeah, I do know that the town clerks in Mashpee, Barnstable, and Yarmouth are all appointed, and they're all non-union. On the outer Cape, a lot of the town clerks are elected and non-union because of that. I don't know where Chatham fits in Orleans. Sandwich is elected as it's born.
Yeah.
And then as to seniority, she clearly is the most senior town clerk on the Cape and Islands. She almost is the most senior in the state.
Another question?
So I was just curious, you said you did research of the surrounding, what were the salary ranges?
Yeah, I don't recall, we did it last year, and it was the basis of last year, so we slotted her into, and I think we have in here, do we? No, we
It was
don't.
on last year's.
Yeah, we had the material in last year's. I can get that for you if you have an interest.
Yeah,
We do it
I'm
for
interested.
individual positions. I don't recall all of them off the top of my head.
I just happen to have that.
I'm just
Last year.
curious, because it does seem like, a significant increase was given last year, and we're asking for another, fairly
M5,
large
75,910 to 94,803 was last year's.
Okay.
so she would be the highest paid.
She's
She's
on the high end of the scale.
But at 101, she would
That
be
would
the
be, I
highest paid.
believe, yes.
By a big range, okay.
And generally, the range moves about 2% for cost of living, and then in the steps is about 2.5% to 3%. And I think she went from 9 to 10, which is a little bit more of a jump, so it's not the traditional 2%.
Other question? I guess my only comment was that we did do a big adjustment last year. Only 1 year has gone by, and we're doing another adjustment. Going with years of service as the only criteria was discussed last year, and that's what the basis of that request was, the years of service. It didn't matter what size town population we were in. It didn't matter on a lot of other things that could come up with. I know on the elected positions, the appointed positions, town clerks are often given other duties to earn the extra salary that goes with the position. And that in two classes of people, elected town clerks in general across the Commonwealth make less money as a group than appointed town clerks in the Commonwealth.
Well, we, not to disagree, but we will disagree, that what we look at is towns that are similar size to us, that have similar budgets to us. Generally, Mashpee, Dennis, and Harwich are pretty close. Sandwich is a little bit larger. So we looked at those from the position of ability to pay, if you would, for each of those other towns. We don't necessarily, in some of the salary work we do, we wouldn't compare to Truro or Wellfleet because they're too small. So we do look at the marketplace for like-sized communities. I think you'd see the same thing in the business environment to match up.
All right, anything else? We want to take a vote, right? Okay, so the motion is to accept and adopt as is. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye.
Aye.
5-2.
Okay, the next article, we're not going to look at all, which is the 2% tax. We'll talk about that later. They have accepted, no, they haven't done that one yet, so that
Yeah,
one.
just I want to at least highlight something, that they have not, and they did not vote a budget last year. I think it's important to know
Right,
that.
yeah.
I submitted the budget as the administrator. By charter, my responsibility is to submit a balanced budget. So I have fulfilled my responsibilities to submit a balanced budget. Part of the balanced budget was to take the rooms rentals, which we already have on the books, it's been on the books since the 1980s, and to go from 4% to 6%. That means about roughly $350,000. That's how we balance the budget. If that $350,000 is not included in that, then a suggestion was made the other night to either do it as a general override to capture the $350,000, or I would have to make cuts. But my obligation under the charter and the obligation of all of us is to present to town meeting a balanced budget. So without that action, the budget will be out of balance and will need to be adjusted.
All right, and so that gets us to the town operating budget. Again, we have four motions we can make. One is to accept and adopt, one is to accept and adopt with the following changes. One would be to indefinitely postpone, and one would be, right now, if we don't have enough information, to make no recommendation pending further information. I would say on this one, where we're gonna sit all day Saturday and listen to the people who will put in this, that might be our position. and
Yes.
Yep.
Then visit another time. So is there a motion to that effect, or what are we doing?
So we're on 4 or 5?
This is,
5.
We jumped to 5, we skipped
Five.
4, okay.
Over here, right?
Okay.
What's the motion?
town operating budget.
Can I just ask you a quick question?
You may.
Does it make sense to have free cash in the operating budget? It strikes me as just being an oddity to
Yep.
use free cash as part of the operating budget.
Through you, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, yep.
So we do two things with free cash. I think in almost every year I've been here, we have used some free cash to offset some of the operating budget. This year is a little bit a higher amount than we have normally put in. Oh, no, I'll take that back. Actually, this one is just 50,000. Last year, I think we had 80,000. I'm gonna reserve my comments. We have free cash going to pay the Monomoy budget, and I'll explain that when we get to the Monomoy one. This is only 50,000, but we have done it for the last 3 or 4 years. Usually, we take small capital items in there. I think we did IT type of work this year that we looked at.
Would you like a motion? Would you like to make the motion?
I move we accept and adopt Article 5.
Accept and adopt it.
Adopt and accept.
Is there a second to that motion? There's no second. Is there another motion?
I make a motion that we hold off acting on this
So
article.
no recommendation pending further information? Is that your motion?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, what do you call that again? It's-
No recommendation pending further information.
Are we open for budget discussion now?
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay.
What is it exactly we're gonna learn in the next month on this part of the budget? In all seriousness, you know, we just delayed it because we pending further information. What information?
Okay, so from my point of view, I've already publicly said, so it's no surprise to Mr. Clark, that I'm not in favor of a budget that begins with a 7 instead of a 6 in terms of the overall number, 70 million. We ran up to that number very, very quickly, I think. But regardless of that information, my own personal feeling on it, right now you have a budget that is supported by an article that is before it in the town meeting. So we're going to vote an article, if the selectmen choose to include that article into the town meeting warrant, to come up with $350,000 worth of revenue to make this budget a balanced budget. So there's a lot of issues pending around that. Normally, we have had our revenue in hand when we've forecasted the next use of that revenue, instead of waiting for it to come in. Those kinds of things. And also, Saturday, 2 days from now, as a courtesy, we're going to listen to all the people that are preparing the budget. I think we should go that before we vote it up or down. Right now, I would vote no on this budget if that was the motion that was out there. So I think no recommendation at this point is a good motion, and I think we are going to learn some things between now and then.
If I may, and I'm agreeing, because if this budget is based on part of that we have to accept the raise in taxes, and if the town votes it down, then that's, where's the, you know, again, we're left with this, something we have to make up.
Well, number one, it's actually a fee, so the money that would be collected from that is fees for people coming into Harwich.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's not
but-
a property tax increase, just to be
Not
clear
a
on that.
property tax, but we have to increase the fee for the people who are staying in the hotels. If the town votes it down, then you have a shortfall of $350,000, and where's that gonna be made up at?
Yeah, we will have to put together, if the Board of Selectmen does not vote to put that on, then we will put together a cut list, or if the board wants to vote a general override to make that up, either way, that's the board's call. But cuts will have to be made to bring it into balance.
You know, I want to be pretty clear here that I don't want us to do things as if some kind of miracle is going to happen a week or two later. That the fact of the matter is, this budget's been put together with the input from the selectmen about what they wanted in a budget. We didn't object to that. In fact, we did not object to the selectmen's message.
Oh, the budget message, yeah.
We didn't. So tacitly, we accepted it. Okay? So if we're gonna accept it one time and not accept it when we get down to the nitty gritty, that doesn't make any sense to me. I don't think that's a good business practice.
Yeah, I'll just disagree in terms of, we accepted it, but it was just a budget message. It didn't get down to numbers until the town administrator presented
But I
those
didn't hear
numbers.
anybody
He
say I'm
could-
accepting this because I have to.
No,
I didn't hear any of that. I was like, this is the operating budget, and we said, okay, let's move on.
well, I'll disagree that allowing the budget message to come forward is tacit acceptance of a $70 million budget.
I'll tacitly let you do that.
All right. Any other discussion on no recommendation pending further information? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed?
So it's 6-1 on that one. Making progress. Monomoy school budget. Again, we're going to have them before, they're not part of the all-day Saturday meeting, but we are going to have them before us for questions on a separate night. I don't know if that would be done jointly with the selectmen or not, but we're certainly going to have some questions, and I don't know if you want to take a position on what the superintendent, the school committee has not even voted the budget yet, so it's not even their budget yet. So I would suggest on this one, we're holding as well, but whatever you want to do.
Do we,
Yep, go ahead.
do we know when that meeting's gonna take place? Is it scheduled?
No, it's not scheduled
It's
for
not
us,
scheduled.
sometime in March, but
Yeah, your meeting is not scheduled. I don't know where Monomoy, if they voted their budget, the final budget or not. That I'm not sure on.
I'm reasonably certain, and I'll get the date wrong, but it's like the 12th or the 14th they were gonna vote it.
Okay.
It's in March they were gonna vote it.
I don't
They have
recall the
picked
date,
a
but-
night that they were gonna vote.
So, I would have a problem voting on an estimated cost for
thank you.
anything, because as we know what happens with estimations, right? So,
Really? Come
I mean,
on.
how firm is the estimated cost?
Personally, as the administrator, I don't see this budget changing, Monomoy changing significantly. The one thing I would point out, just to Angelo's earlier question, I said I would get back to this. And actually, we don't have the numbers in here, but if you look, the capital number is 267,408. That is coming out of free cash. That, I think in almost every year I've been here, we have funded their capital out of free cash. We fund our own capital out of free cash, so that's not really inconsistent. And their operating budget, 175,000, is coming, if anyone read the budget message, it's all laid out in the budget message, so I'm just repeating myself. But just to make sure for folks that may not have read it, the 175 is they had $430,000 in additional cost for special needs. And my anticipation in that, you don't normally fund something one time because you know it's going to be an ongoing cost. This is going to be an ongoing cost. The reason why I've taken this approach is that the state has two funding mechanisms. I'll really just focus on one, is a circuit breaker. So when your education, special education goes higher, they come in and they pay a portion of it. The first 70,000 per, 30,000, 35,000 per kid is on us. And then anything above that, they say they're gonna fund it at 100%. Unfortunately, what they say and what they do are two different things. They generally fund around 50%. So the 175 in the next year, 21, would be picked up by state revenues. So in my mind, it's a one-time jump up that will then be supplemented by state funds in the second year.
Okay, thank you.
Chris, has the dropping of the Spanish class been resolved? Is that out?
No.
Do you aware?
And again, I have most of my contact through Scott Carpenter,
Right.
my counterpart, the superintendent. I mean, I had him, he and I chatted again today. In order for him to bring his budget in at, I can't remember exactly what he is, like a 4% range, he had to make cuts in order to bring it down. So we asked him to be closer to 3.25. I think he came in slightly over 4%. In order to get to the 4%, he had to do the net reduction of 8.5 teachers. One of the things I just want to, and again, it's in the budget message, but we have enrollments overall are declining. You wouldn't keep the same number of teachers for a declining enrollment. So, I do think he's done a good job of trying to pare that down. Whether people agree that Spanish is needed or not is a different subject, where he decided to make those cuts.
The reason I raised the question is because we went to the public hearing, John and I, and there was a lot of discussion, a lot of feedback, negative feedback about the dropping of the Spanish class, so I was just curious.
But if he came back and didn't want to cut the 8.5, then he would put his budget out of balance and make it even higher.
But point being, through the chair, to you, if enrollment is down, then why are we going up 4%?
Yeah,
If we're doing less kids, then why are we spending a lot more money? 4% is a lot of money in this budget. So where is that increase coming if we have less kids to teach?
yeah, great.
So I'm thinking,
Great
maybe a
question.
teacher can be cut? Maybe, why do we have two principals there? I mean, there's certain things, administration things, that may be able to be cut with less children.
Right now, we're looking at no recommendation pending further information.
Right.
Yeah, I think we need to sit with them.
Yeah, okay.
You had something, Ed?
Well, overall, if you look at the district budget, it's up, I believe, 3.1%.
Yeah.
But the assessment of Harwich is up 4% because after he did his budget and made the 3.2% target, which the selectmen gave him, the state decided to redo the formula on how the assessment is allocated. So, it added essentially a percent to Harwich's assessment and subtracted that from Chatham.
Well, I still see that as wrong.
I know, but,
But just to, and it's in the budget, I keep saying that, but I put a lot of time into it. Chatham actually had a net decrease of about 16 kids, and we had a net increase of
Right,
25.
and I understand
And that's
the
what
seesaw
created
where it has
the
to
scoop
balance.
for
Yes, I
us.
understand that. But overall, between Chatham and us, student population is down.
yeah.
Why is the cost going up? And it's just, district, it doesn't matter. Less kids, less teachers, less money. Should not be going up.
Ed, and then I'd rather get back to this, we're
Yeah.
trying to take a no position on this right
And
now.
that's,
Yeah.
those are two issues, but the point I just wanted to make is we had asked him to make a 3.25%, and he did bring his total budget in slightly under that. And theoretically, that would have rolled forward to making his target, and that's separate from whether or not you still think it's too much money, given the dropping enrollment, but he did, I just wanted to make that point.
Well, what the selectmen say and what the finance committee says, we both have our own opinions.
Yeah, no, I know.
We got Angelo.
But when he presented the budget a month or so ago, he had about $1.5 million, $1.6 million laid aside for
They have retained earnings.
retained earnings and whatnot. You take $260,000 out of that and cover about $260,000 with that, and then you save the free cash and you don't have to tax the people. I mean, why do we have to take this money and put it away for use next year or the year after? And let the residents have to pay taxes to cover this, basically. So I don't understand.
I'll let you answer that in just a second, but we've got another question.
It's a comment.
Yeah.
John and I attended the school committee meeting when the budget was presented, and I seem to recall that a portion of that increase is attributed to special ed kids coming into the district, that only 1% of the budget.
Yes. 430,000 is a big number to
Yeah.
increase.
Yeah.
To the point, I do believe they are using some of their E&D. Angela and I may disagree on having reserves is not a bad thing. So they are utilizing
Yes,
some of
it
those
is.
reserves, and they're in the category, in the range where they've used some. So I don't remember the exact number. It's in his budget materials, though.
550
Yeah, I was gonna say 440 or 550.
is what they're using this year. That's my only comment is about, they have a unique thing, a one-time kind of thing before the state catches up on it.
Right.
And that, to me, is the area where you bring in your reserves to cover something like that, or you do something creative. I know the approach of using our 175 is creative, and I'm on
You
a
could
similar.
use their
We
175.
could use
too.
their 175, and that's going to ultimately be my recommendation, but we'll get there when we get there. Right now, we have a motion to indefinitely, make no recommendation pending further information. Any more discussion on that motion?
What was I didn't get who made the motion in the second?
I got Tom and John.
Okay, thank you.
John, did anybody make the motion in a second on this one?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I think that was on
Maybe
the
that was
last
for the
one,
other
on
one.
the
All right.
budget.
I'll make the motion then that we do a hold off on this for further information.
Second.
So it is Tom and John.
I just want to make sure
There it
that
is.
we're recording,
Yeah,
we're talking about recording it all right. so.
You're a mind reader.
You're gonna get it perfect. I'm
Yeah.
not worried about it.
I have it written down correctly now.
There you go.
So it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That one's unanimous.
7-0. Okay,
Okay, the tech budget. And again, a very large increase, but two different things going on. One is a 2% budget increase, 1.96% budget increase, and the other is the debt that was approved and in our debt forecast as far as that portion goes. So is there a motion to,
I'll
on the
make a
tech
mo-
budget?
I'll make a motion, we accept it.
Accept and adopt?
I'll second.
And just to, if I could, just make a quick note on it, just, we actually lost 10 kids in the system, so we went down. So we actually had a net decrease of, I think, 153,000, but the paying for the building is coming online.
Right.
The town did vote, and one of the things, you'll see the debt really has spiked. The debt spiked because there's been individual votes to increase to pay the debt service. So the 910 is all related to the payment of the school.
But if I may, in this case, he kept it under 2%,
Oh, yeah.
and, you know, a decrease in students, I understand that, but teachers get more pay, and I know all about that. So, it's the fact that he kept it under 2%, and then the rest of it just becomes for our share that we have to pay
Right.
for the new construction. So I have no problem with this at all.
Okay, and that's $2,332,198, and that's to be raised and appropriated.
Mm-hmm.
Ed?
The tech school, similar to what else has had a net loss in students system-wide. It's just not in Harwich.
Yeah.
Hmm?
And we've already heard that the numbers are rolling up the Lower Cape. I mean, Truro has no sixth grade this fall in their system. They voted to keep all of their staff, but that's their choice. And what did we hear in 2 years? Eastham has no elementary class. No, I mean their kindergarten class, the
Kindergarten.
first, the first.
Yeah.
So, and Chatham's going down. If you think it's going to skip Harwich somehow,
It won't.
it won't. All right, so we have a motion to accept and adopt. Any other discussion? Jack, anything? No. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? There's a vote.
Just a bit,
Seven
bit
zip.
of trivia. Gosnell,
7-0.
Cuddy Hunt will be graduating its last student this year.
Yeah, I remember that too, yeah, that was my other, that was the other, it's out there. Water Department budget, again, we will have them before us separately, I would say water and
And wastewater.
wastewater together, so that will be a future separate night. You have the budgets if you want to vote it, or we can wait to hear
Well,
from
they're on
them.
the schedule for Saturday, too, both budgets.
Oh, they are, okay, so we'll pick them up Saturday, so.
Should we
Answer.
not write?
You want to make a motion?
No, I just want to ask a question.
We'll make a motion, then we'll get a motion on the table
No we
for
question?
Jack, and then we'll ask questions. Jack, do you want to make a motion?
No, I'll wait.
Is there a no recommendation motion coming forward?
Uh,
We have another study recommendation. Okay.
I'll make a motion that both Articles 8 and 9, because we're going to meet with them on Saturday, I say we hold it off till Saturday where we could discuss it with them.
Is there a second to that?
I'll second.
Now, question, sorry.
I still think that the town should know that these budgets are paid within the water bill, not through taxes. So I think in here, that's important to say.
On the reason, I will make that, I'll make sure that we do that. In fact, I'm going to write that right now.
Yeah. Because, you know, now, should we still look at the numbers to make sure the numbers are right? Yes, because we pay
Yes.
the water bills. But it's a different animal.
Right.
Do you want to comment on the wastewater budget? Or-
Yeah, well, I was just thinking, we have an explanation in 9, but we don't have an explanation on 8. I wonder if we should put an explanation in there. It's kind of a little bit late in the game for me to do it, but you can certainly do it on
We can do it on our motion.
Your motion.
Yeah, as our reason to support the motion.
In wastewater, I mean, just quickly on that, we established last year a sewer enterprise account, same as we do with the water. The idea is that we will have, in, I think it's 2021, have to make probably $250,000 to $275,000 payment to Chatham just to be hooked up to their plant. That doesn't even include the flow that we send there. The flow we send there will be paid for by the people that contribute to it. So we've been trying to build this fund up. There's actually 3 things that are being done in this. One is to move that subsidy payment, if you would, from $70,000 to $150,000 in this budget. And then, actually, the budget increases $150,000. The FY20 budget will be used to fund $100,000 for a program administrator to help in the transition. The idea is that that money would be used to help in the people hooking up, and then when we have to make the payment to Chatham, that would have to go away. So that would not be a perpetual, that would become a transition. And then DHY, which is our effort to partner up with Dennis and Yarmouth, does require some assistance for us to do that. So there's $25,000 built into here for that, and then $25,000 to amend the CWMP to allow for resequencing. And $100,000 would come from free cash to fund the program to connect income eligible people to the through the county program. So there's a few things going on in those pieces.
Is it, I mean, we put, correct me if I'm wrong, we put $100,000 in this year's.
70,000 last year.
70,000. Is there a way, I mean, we're not spending that, correct?
Correct.
Is there a way to encumber that for next year's budget?
Because it's an enterprise account, it will be rolled over.
Okay. Mr. Brown?
How much money do we get from the enterprise fund on an annual basis? I mean, they're allowed to kick in a certain amount back to the town.
You mean on the,
Administration?
we do that right now in the water department. The water department, it's about $600,000 that their employees that we pay their health insurance for, the water funds reimburse the town for those costs. So the indirect cost, which is about $600,000, is reimbursed to the taxpayers through the enterprise account.
2 more trees.
And that's traditional enterprise accounting. That's nothing fancy. That's just traditional.
John?
How is OPEB paid for the water department?
We actually, the OPEB, we have Siegel is a what do you call it? An actuarial firm that does the calculations. They did it town-wide 2 years ago, and we asked them to break out water. So water will fund their portion on their
Water
own.
funds their own then?
They will, yeah.
The point is, if it's taxpayer funded, but it comes.
It will be
in essence, it's
fee-driven by water fees to
Yeah.
fund their OPEB obligation.
The questions? So we have 2 articles to make no recommendation pending further information, 8 and 9. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's for both of them.
Unanimous?
7-0. Just cruising here.
Wait, that brakes will be slammed shortly.
Okay, now, let me just write this. Can we get a motion, if there is one, on the capital plan? Then, once we get a motion, there was a couple of changes lately, so maybe we can go into those.
I move that we adopt the capital plan.
Is there a second to that
Second.
motion? Okay, so. This is a no-charge article, but it has 70 million bucks on it or something. A lot of money. So, the crematorium is not part of the capital plan anymore?
Correct.
Or it's,
At,
if it's out there, it's beyond,
well, at the request of the Cemetery Commission, they asked to have crematory taken off, so it was removed. The Capital Outlay Committee did meet last week or the week before and did vote to take that off.
and there was a change with the fire department, and I think that was an
Yes.
exciting one.
Yes.
The fire department change was they had a pumper for $600,000 in '20, and for $1.4 million, they had a ladder truck, I think, in '23. What they have opted to do is there is a hybrid piece of equipment that is, if you would, half pumper, half ladder, called a quint, and they have opted to do the quint. So they took $2 million worth of two pieces of equipment off, and in 2021 would need to have the quint, which is $1 million.
It was funny, a few years back, I don't know, probably while you were a selectman, at one point, they wanted to do it the other way. They wanted to take a pumper and turn that into a quint, and that was a pretty big, expensive thing to do. But taking the ladder truck and the pumper and turning that into a quint makes it a much more reasonable price proposition. So most of the questions that we originally had have been changed or moved or answered. The only bugaboo that I personally have at this point is, again, part of what we're doing at the pet burial ground, which is no longer a pet cemetery, pet burial ground, is there's an article to create the funding source, and then the next article spends the money, and there's no time in between to collect it. And
Well, that was resequenced, so in the materials, we have that resequenced, but basically what we have is the citizens petition.
yeah, I know
Converts
there was,
that.
I know the
And
sequence.
then the second one would be to create the funding source for every lot sold. That would go into a revolving account. Once that revolving account got to a certain level, the town would be reimbursed for the 70-odd thousand that it raised, or that it paid to do the work that was already done, and then the 50-odd to finish it. So the money would have to be raised before it could be spent. That's why the article to raise the money is first, and the article spend it is second.
Right, but there's no time to actually collect the money.
We could technically start collecting the money tomorrow, to be perfectly honest,
Okay.
if the selectmen voted to do that. I think that a decision's been made
To
in
get this in
general
front
by
of
the
town
board
meeting.
to let town meeting decide whether they want to create this fund. But if town meeting created the fund in May, they could start collecting the money the day or two after.
Right, but
Because then the intent of the town would be clear.
within 2 minutes of creating the fund, you're gonna spend 100 and something thousand.
Under the revolving account, under revolving accounts, we couldn't spend it until we raise it.
Okay,
You'll appropriate it, you won't spend it until you have the money, but you will authorize the appropriation.
yeah.
But this is supposed to be supplemented by the sale of the plots for the dogs.
Correct.
So how can
Or
we
cats.
sell, or cats, or,
Birds.
little parakeets? Horse.
No, they can't do
but
horses into.
No,
Oh, they can?
Yeah.
It's coordinated, right?
Can we charge for a cemetery that is non-existent right now?
It is existent.
Are we ready to plant? If old Sparky dies, can I put him in the ground tomorrow?
No.
It's actually kind of an interesting question, because on the cultural center, we asked town meeting to create a revolving fund to do that. The Board of Selectmen said, yes, we could start segmenting that money off in the general fund and then use that as seed money once town meeting votes it. So theoretically, if the selectmen voted tomorrow to start selling the lots and do that and start to collect the money, then yes, we could. I think what the board has done is said, let's wait for town meeting to weigh in on it, and then once town meeting has had its say, then we'll start collecting the money and then pay off for that. But to your answer, yes, they could, because we've already done it. Legally, you can do it. Politically is different. I don't get into the politics piece.
Okay, so we actually get to, just, I'll let you, in a second. We actually get to those separate articles and can
Later
discuss
on.
the finer points later on, probably not tonight, but this is the no-charge article, but it has that in there, and whether or not we would want to move that back a year, but that's separate. I understand what Ed's saying, and I actually agree with Ed. Say that out loud again. I agree with Ed.
Remember,
On tape, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
it's sort of like doing pre-sales on tractors. You pre-sale the little plot.
I understand,
2000
but I don't think I would be as glib as that.
In 2004, we were up near the Salem, and we're passing a new cemetery, and it said something, I don't know, 5,000 new burial plots, 2,000 are ready to receive burials, and so they obviously were pre-selling lots that
Yeah.
had yet to be developed fully.
Yeah. John had a question.
But only town meeting can create a revolving fund, though, right? Correct. Yeah. So how can the selectmen start selling lots if the revolving fund hasn't been
It
created?
is a process in law in which in the general fund, we can segment off any revenue that we receive. So what the selectmen said in the cultural center is start segmenting off the money, hold it aside, and then we want to use that to populate.
But we couldn't,
It was within the general fund that that decision was made.
but we couldn't plant any animals, though. We could collect the money, but not plant any. Because what happens if the town defeated the revolving fund? You'd have to dig up the animal and return the money.
Yeah, you're getting into a little bit more, real nuanced stuff. Because theoretically, the selectmen could authorize to have that done, and then if town meeting votes it down, then
They'd have to undo it. So
Yeah.
it makes sense. Politically,
they-
it's not. It makes sense
it
to
makes
let
sense
town
to
meeting
wait till
decide.
town meeting.
Yeah,
Actually, the way I read the article, it puts it back into the control of the selectmen. They may choose to use it as a pet cemetery.
Well, the use of the land, the petition article specifically says we want to take and have it no longer under the care and custody of the cemetery commission and move it back into the care and custody of the Board of Selectmen.
Right.
Even if that article was successful, there's two steps. One
I
is that.
understand that part, yeah.
And this, well, just more for
Yeah,
people that
okay,
vote too.
yeah.
But the second piece is then the cemetery commission would have to vote by, I think, 2/3 vote to then also say that the selectmen can do what they want with it. If the selectmen wanted to then sell that, that's a change in use again, and that would have to go back to town meeting for town meeting action. But if it's under the jurisdiction of the Selectmen and Cemetery Commission, it's still under the jurisdiction of the Selectmen and Cemetery Commission, so it could still be used for
Right.
those
I mean,
type
if
of
that- if-
purposes.
I'm just reading the tea leaves and seeing that 4 selectmen are in favor of this. It'll be interesting to see what the actual votes come in and do. And we'll get to make the motion. So, anything else on the capital plan, which is a no-charge article we have a motion to accept and adopt? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Opposed?
6 to 1. Lease purchase agreement. See if the town vote to enter into various lease purchase agreements. This is to go longer than the 3 years on
Yeah.
the golf equipment and things like that.
But I wish I could say that the state helps us, but the state sometimes, so they created a Municipal Modernization Act in 2016, and they say anytime you do any leases, you have to kind of have town meeting be aware of that each year.
All right, so do
Every
we have a
year
motion
do-
on this one?
We do leases on copiers and things like that. This would
Jack,
cover
I'm
us
getting
for
there.
that.
I just, is there a golfer here? Do we have any golfers? I don't think we have any, Jack. Are you a golfer?
Former.
Former, yeah. We've all driven a bucket of balls, so we're all former golfers. I've done the big windmill down there. Is there a motion? This is a parliamentary kind of thing. I'm looking for accept and adopt,
Accept
but,
and adopt. I move Article 11 be accepted and adopted.
Second.
I mean, this allows us to do a lot of flexibility that we won't have if we don't do this.
This is another thing that's paid by revenue and fees, not taxes also.
Now, this is the mechanism that allows us to
This
do
actually
it.
covers all lease purchases, not just the golf.
Jack?
Through you, Chairman. Chris, do you think that there should be a list or something? Because you use the word various lease purchasing financing agreements. Don't you think that inevitable somebody's gonna wanna know what those are, or how many there are, how much money's involved, at least, those kind of questions?
You may want to put them in your write-up for FinCom. The hesitation is that we're doing tasers, we're doing copiers. You know, do we really want to do a list of
It's
every
boring.
copier
It's
in
boring.
the town?
Yeah, but
But if we did a general grouping, the only thing I would hesitate, if we missed something and we didn't do, the coffee maker is being
what
leased.
I don't know is this is 50,000 or 1.5 million.
Hmm.
You know?
But it's in the operating budget, right, all of these events?
We try to segment them off and say which ones we are doing lease purchase on. The copiers, which is a common
All right,
one,
so-
doesn't have it.
Well, if we vote this in a positive manner, I will get with the town administrator and come up with some sort of list that we can properly word in our reason.
Just something that says. this
These are the types
is
of agreements
these are
that
the
we
types of
have.
agreements, and these are the kind of monies
Potential costs, yeah.
that are here, and then, you know, 2 or 3 lines.
Maybe the timeline on the leases.
So I had a quick question. Does this include like golf fees and stuff like that, or no? This is something completely different?
This could include, we actually
Golf
do
equipment.
a lease for,
Yeah.
it's a revenue lease, so it's a positive lease for the golf carts.
Okay.
So that's why I said there's a wide variety of things that fall under this, so,
We'll give it a stab
but
if
we
we
can
vote
maybe give
this.
examples of
Yeah.
it.
Yep.
I was curious, the language, not to exceed the useful life of the equipment as determined by the Board of Selectmen. Do they use some kind of a standard benchmark to determine a useful life?
Believe it or not, there's actually a section in state law, the number's not coming to me, in which anything you borrow money for, they have a list, and then they have
okay.
that standard useful life.
Because I was going to say the IRS also
Yeah.
covers that.
Yeah.
But,
They have their own statute
Yeah.
that covers it.
yeah,
Ed just looks at it and says, yeah, 2 years, yeah, 4 years.
it's old.
But it's actually a part of the Massachusetts general law.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not a regulation that
That's
some
right.
administrator can take, it takes an act of the legislature
Mhm.
to move something from one category. It's a pain in the
Okay,
We had to move that for doing the bond sales to fund the dredging in Allen Harbor. We had to get a change of general law, move it from one category
to another.
It worked.
Further discussion? Motion is to accept and adopt. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? 7-0. Capital items from free cash. We have a list here, and maybe it would be best if we have some sort of motion and then plan on just going down through the list individually. I don't know, just a suggestion.
So I move to accept and adopt Article 12.
Second.
And this would be a total of $136,874 from free cash.
Correct.
That was your motion, right? And who seconded to that?
Angela?
Angelo?
He's always good that way. Do you want to go individually or just vote the whole list? Does anybody have a problem with any of the individual items on the list? I mean, they've been on the capital planning document all year, so we've talked about some of them a little bit.
John, you're gonna see a radar unit out in front of your house, don't worry about it. It's not.
Just let us know your address, John.
It's not, oh, they know his address.
Is that one of those portable, speaking of that, is that one of those portable trailers?
Yeah, you're not sleeping, 2 AM, it's a flash, flash.
Oh, shoot.
Do those, by the way, take a picture of a license plate?
No.
Just your.
They do
best.
record speeds and
Yeah.
times, but they do not take a picture.
You're not taking-
Not allowed in Massachusetts to have
Good to know.
pictures for.
They do that.
Unless you're going through the
Yeah.
tolls.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, unless you go through the tolls.
Okay.
Discussion, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? 7-0. I'm just gonna take a quick,
Time check?
Yeah, it's 8 o'clock.
Okay.
If we're still all game, we can keep on going.
Yeah.
We're making progress. I like what's happening.
Does it keep shut off in this building?
Just
I know.
this room.
That's
This
a
room
little
is nutty.
It seems like it's getting cooler. doesn't
I know,
it?
I was just saying,
will
am
be.
I the
Well, I
only
think
chilly
it's the
person in
windows.
here?
No, you're
He
not.
doesn't like us. He wants
Dress,
us out.
dress appropriately when you're in this room.
Sweatshirts
You
from
have
now
a
on.
jacket?
Sorry.
here. Okay, the next article is 13, Facility Maintenance and Repair Fund, $774,750 for all of those items, 2, 4, 6, 7 items. Is there a motion on this
I
one?
make a motion, we accept and adopt.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Anything on here? Questions? Angelo first. John?
Dan and I have been going around talking to various department heads just to learn about departments and budgets. And one of the department heads we met with was Sean Libby. And I remember him, I don't have it with me, giving us a capital request of a few items. One item that really stuck out to me is a new roof for the West Harwich School. I don't see it on this list. Where would that $20,000 show up?
That was actually taken out of the operating budget. The insurance company said they would not provide insurance on that building unless we had some repairs made. So he estimated it was about 20,000. We have a general maintenance account that has, I can't remember the exact number, so I'm not gonna try to guess. But he has a pool of money that if he needs to do work on any one
Yeah.
building, he can do that. So he did do those repairs in order to maintain the insurance coverage on that building.
He's already done the repairs?
I believe he has.
Well, I thought it was, from my understanding, Dan, correct?
We had it in the capital budget under the operating budget.
From last year then?
No, I think we had it for this year, but he had to do it within a certain amount of time for insurance
Oh,
purposes.
so it's been done?
I believe he did.
Okay.
And he did it as much as he could in-house, so it wasn't,
It wasn't 20,000.
it probably wasn't the full 20.
Which is, I understand the insurance reason and stuff, but it just particular, not to bog down here, but this begs a bigger question on that building, of what we're gonna do with it, but that's for further discussion at a later time. But that's
Yeah,
it.
capital outlay has targeted that as one to kind of have a discussion on.
Okay.
Just in defense of the Board of Selectmen, I mean, there's been probably 3 or 4 efforts to
Yeah,
do
I
something with that
understand
building,
that,
and can't seem to get any momentum
There it
going.
is. And as soon as we declare use of it, someone will object.
Well, we've had, in the past, new windows proposed to be put in that.
Yep.
Right. So, I think that's all. I just
We've had boat
remembered the
building
number and I
proposed
didn't
in
know
there.
where it was coming from. Okay, thank you, Chris.
Thank
I
you.
often get the comment, why don't we let the youth go back there and use it for the skateboard park and all that kind of stuff, but those are just comments out there. So the motion is to accept and adopt, $774,750 coming from available funds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous
I'm
vote.
opposed.
You're opposed?
Yeah. I don't think I'll tell you why. On the cultural center, I don't know why we should be spending this kind of money, because nobody seems to be able to put together a real document of what we are spending, what we're getting. Can we raise the rates, the impact on stores or buildings in town that would like to rent some of the empty rooms they have that we're going to get low prices. And I think it's time for somebody to do an evaluation.
Is this portion the insurance portion? And
Yeah, I think in terms of the cultural center, just again, maybe for folks at home, that when the school got turned over to us, if we were to leave it as a vacant building, you have to have what they call vacant building coverage. The vacant building coverage was $220,000 a year to keep it vacant. So there was an effort, the board made an effort to redevelop it as housing. That effort did not see fruition. So the plan was, in order to avoid spending $220,000 per year to provide insurance coverage, that we find a use for it. So the artist colony was the use for it, and that has avoided having to have it have that vacant building coverage. So the amount of money we pay now on insurance is minimal in comparison to what we could have paid.
What do we pay to keep the building? That's the other question.
Yep.
I meant to ask that question before, if but I voted for it. I'd like to vote against. I don't know if you're going to re-vote, or I'd like to change my vote on this also.
We can allow that.
Okay.
So 5 to
Just-
2,
5
We're
to
not
2.
gregarian.
Just,
unless anyone else is
no, I
having.
meant to ask, I'm all in favor of it, but I, again, like this West Harwich School, we have this cultural center, and I'd like to find out more of what it actually costs us for this building.
Just on, again, we all contribute here, and we all do stuff. On my own initiative, I've talked to Chris about this, and a couple members of the Board of Selectmen. I don't know if I talked to you up at MMA or not, but one of the thoughts I had on just this topic of the cultural center was the possibility of moving the exercise room, the weight room at the community center to that facility. I have a couple of ideas in mind on that. The administration area of that building is empty and not being used. My idea would be to bring some CPC funds to bear to fix that up and create a space for the exercise room, which does not have enough room now. And that would move a cost center to that building that actually would allow it to make some more money and get closer to, I mean, this 125 is to offset the revenue that comes in from that building, but you're still underwater on the thing. And now that it's here and we're using it, one of the situations you can get into is the selectmen, in order to try and balance the books on that building, might keep trying to raise the rates and so forth, and pretty soon you get to a point where the people who are in there can't afford to be in there. And just renting out everything isn't gonna do it. You have to, that's not gonna pay for that building. So coming up with a cost center that could really contribute, they're over $80,000 now, to that building would really be something to look at. Let me just, I'll give you my intro and then you can tell where I'm crazy. And the weight room right now is at capacity. They've into 2 different spaces up at that building now. They can't grow anymore, and they are in the same boat. In order to raise revenues there, you have to increase fees because you don't have room to expand and add more people. They're at 957 people now. You're in the same boat there. If you gave them extra room and more territory to space out in, which is not available at the community center, that would create that possibility and give you the chance to offset the cost of the cultural center in a big way, and to allow the weight exercise area to grow and add more people. Also, that room at the community center that it's in, and the back room is an office, that's a valuable room, and it's right off of the kitchen. And it could really be put to good use rental-wise, or for the senior lunch program, or for whatever. It could be set up better than it is in terms of setting up and breaking down every day in the other room that they have their lunches in now. So I just started looking at it. It's something that couldn't be ready for this year. It would have to be for next year, but the time to talk about it would be early into the process and as part of this year. And I talked to a few people about it. I'm going to talk more and more about it because I think it has some merit. Angela.
I would just suggest you do the same thing as that needs to be done in the cultural center. The community center is not a moneymaker at all.
No.
So what you're doing is you're taking some of the funds that are supporting the community center, which is still deep in the hole, and moving it out and putting it in a deeper hole.
Yeah.
So unless you can come up with something that fills that hole, why bother? You know?
My answer to that would be that, and I was part of the study committee that wrote the paper on that building and helped, as a selectman, bring that building into office and cut the ribbon on that building. It was never my intention as a selectman and a policymaker to have that building pay for itself. And I don't care if it ever pays for itself. A new building that we've added on to start using, I have a different feeling about. I would rather try to balance the books on that one than that one. So of the two, that's just my opinion and my feeling on it. Jack? Oh, I thought,
Just as a comment, if you're going to be using CPC funds, the application would have to be submitted by October 1st.
Yes, that's why I'm talking about it several months in advance. Next October 1st, yes. Anything else on that?
So that was 5-2,
5-2 we ended up with.
John and
We had a
Angela.
change on the one that, the fund, the facility, maintenance and repairs.
Well, that was the one that was 6-1.
Yeah, it's now 5-2.
5-2.
We wait another half hour, it could be, no.
Yeah, let's
All
not-
right.
So
These weren't
14 and
all.
15, you may want to just, pending additional information.
14 and 15.
Yeah, one is the snow and ice deficit, so obviously it snowed yesterday.
I drove in it all night,
Snow,
beautiful thing.
Anticipated the snow this weekend, so those numbers will change as we go forward.
Yeah.
And then the budget shortfalls, the one thing that did come up, and we're still looking at the full details of this, but I think we disclosed this on the water department, had some serious conditions on the pipes once they put the Lothrop tank online. Some of the pipes, if you would, failed in the street, and they have found that they need to make those repairs this year.
Yes, yeah.
So they will take money, because they have money in reserves, out of their retained earnings to do that work.
Great
That's why
system.
we have it there. But the total numbers will be determined when we get a little closer to town
So
meeting.
Article 14 to 15, can we get some sort of motion that says no recommendation pending further information?
Second.
I'll do that.
Apparently you were going with,
So Dana and Angela,
so that's a hold.
There's nothing that says the chair can't make a motion, and I think I just did.
I think you just did too.
That was
All right.
15, 14 and 15.
14 and
Gotta vote on
15.
it now.
Yeah, I understand the
Yeah.
part. Is there any discussion? Mr. Brown, you have something you need to say on this?
I just always found it amazing at Procter & Gamble how many times we had the same problem over and over again. And yet we were pretty darn good at that kind of stuff. So here's another one in a whole different world. You know, I mean, there's books and books and books of this kind of information on how to do it right.
You mean on the water tank?
Yeah. Too bad.
I think the problem is you plug in a pipe that's 70, 80 years old, and you're bound to,
That's where you
you're bound to
start-
find some,
That's where you start to talk about what we gotta
Don't
do.
get me started on the oldest pipe in town program.
I'm just,
That should have been in place since the 90s. Further discussion to make no recommendation pending further information. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
7-0.
0 on both.
Water department.
I'm getting there. This is the mini excavator for the water department, 64,000 to come out of water rates.
Yeah, all the water ones come out of water rates.
Yeah.
Anybody want to make a motion on this one? Want to get this thing or not?
Make a motion, we accept and adopt.
Okay.
Second.
Second? Or you
I
seconded,
second,
Bonnie?
yeah.
Okay, sorry.
No worries.
This changes everything.
Yeah, that's the first time.
Jumping
I'm
right
okay
into
with
the
that one. I'm gonna give that one a check.
There you go.
All right. Discussion? Anybody have any questions or anything? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Here's a vote. Unanimous, 7-0. And then this is.
This one,
replace Lake-
they had the wrong title on there, Dana. It's actually the Pleasant Lake tank, the fill replacement. The description was right, just the title was wrong. So it's actually Pleasant Lake Ave tank.
And this is coming out of their funds.
This is coming out of their funds.
It's a filler pipe, Rick? Is that it?
Yes.
Not a full tank.
Yeah, no, it's the pipe itself. He has an explanation in there. The 12-inch pipe is undersized, so in order to get to the pressure, he needs to have a bigger pipe that goes up. And this is, I think, from the street into the top of the pipe.
Is there a motion?
Accept and adopt Article 17.
Is there a second?
Jack and John.
Discussion?
No,
That's not-
no, we accepted it.
Yeah, it was accepted. I just wonder, seconded. I just wonder if there was any discussion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It's a unanimous vote. Generator? Can never have enough generators in town.
This is Tom's specialty. Defer to Mr. Tom.
And it's a lease purchase agreement.
Generator for a new building?
Not for,
Oh, no,
not for the new building. This is actually at the old, the main facility.
I mean, is it for the water department? Yeah.
So it's reached its useful life and they're just changing it out.
Is there a motion?
I make a motion, we accept and adopt.
Second.
Second.
Who are you giving that to as the second?
Dan?
I heard it simultaneously, so,
I win.
just so our notes are right.
Multiple.
Thank you.
I want somebody bringing back an article on us. Discussion on this one? Again, 65,000 coming out of funds from the water.
Water funds.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous vote. Ford F-550. Is there a motion on this one?
I make a motion, we accept and adopt. Article
Is there a second?
19.
Is there a second?
Come on, Bonnie.
I'll second.
There you go.
What's gonna happen to the one that's being replaced? See here?
I believe it's less the anticipated trade-in.
It's a trade-in.
So he's gonna trade in the old one. They
Why-
anticipate the value at 6,500.
Yeah. My question would be, why are they getting a 550? I mean, the replacing a 350, there's $10,000 difference, buys a lot of water.
It's a
Why
better
a
question to
550?
ask Dan than me.
Yeah.
I'm not a big truck guy, so. he
That's a
says
big
he-
truck.
He says he needs the bigger truck.
And the
so-
F-350, the F-350 today
Mm-hmm.
is what the F-550 was back then. I mean, the 350 today is far more capable than what the 350 they're replacing it with.
He's coming in Saturday morning, so if you
Yeah.
wanna, he's on the schedule for Saturday, so.
So I'm going to vote against this myself. I don't mind if it passes or catches it, but I'm going to ask that question, and maybe that changes our answer. I would like us to support a 350, but I'm not sure why I want to support a 550. Jack?
We have a motion.
The motion is to accept and adopt by,
John and then Bonnie,
Yeah.
accept and adopt.
I have a question also. Does it make sense to somehow have just one area where we buy these kinds of trucks? In other words, the next article has 3 or 4 different trucks being done by the.
Most of these come off the state bid list, so we're getting,
They call all those from
Yeah.
this.
which is why the 350 for 60,000 is 10,000 less than the 550.
Well, the 550 is for the water, and the next one's for the DPW, so they're all different
Right.
Right.
departments.
I just wondered if tying all together would make sense.
I do know they come off the bid list, but I'm just wondering why they're beefing up their fleet.
yeah, no, that's a fair question. I don't have a good answer, so I'm not gonna BS my way through it.
I got a question too. A 1-ton dump truck, that's a 2500 series. I mean, it's not a 550. I mean, it's a cheaper truck than the one up top for, why is one, yeah,
So maybe we want to hold this one. I don't know. We have a motion to accept and adopt it.
a 1-ton.
I mean, I think we're going to buy a truck.
Right.
I think we have questions about that truck. We may ultimately not like their answers and vote it to be a 350. I don't know if we can even do that, but I'm assuming we can. We can make a motion that
I
says,
think you could accept
And
and
have less
adopt,
money.
and then if you wanna, after Saturday, if you're not satisfied with the answer, you can always
reconsider it. yeah.
reconsider it.
That's why I said I'm going to vote no on this, but I don't mind later having to I'm going to ask the question, but we might all change our
We
mind.
have an accept and adopt motion, and we can vote if we want to, so.
Right.
Yep.
Go ahead and vote them down.
I agree, Jack.
It's just not-
I struck my good.
Any other debate on it?
So what are we're voting to accept and adopt?
Accept and
Or-
adopt.
That's what the
Fine.
motion is. You can vote however way you want to vote.
Consider if you don't get a good
If,
answer
if
on
you don't like the
Saturday.
way
Hold
it's
the motion.
sitting after we talk to them,
Yeah.
we can go back and revisit it.
Okay.
So the motion is accepted. All those in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye.
Aye.
So
3 to
4
4, so that loses.
So that does not carry. So we're back to,
So just
No,
on the
recommend-
nose,
I recommend it.
so I would probably now entertain a motion to not recommend. No recommendation pending further information. Obviously, we have
That's
questions.
my motion.
Is there a second to that motion? All right, so now we have a new motion. So that one lost for
3 to 4.
3 to 4.
John, Dan, Jack, and Dana.
Yeah, name the people.
You heard earlier, you're supposed to have the votes in there.
I'm writing down.
They see us on TV, they know
They
what we're
see
doing.
us, that's right.
In any event, we now have a new motion from Jack and seconded by Angelo to make no recommendation pending further information. Discussion on that. Obviously, we have some questions. We'll get the answer to those questions, and then we'll make an intelligent decision. All those in favor of that motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion is unanimous.
Unanimous.
How's that for good voting, huh?
Probably should do the same for the next one.
All right, the next one is equipped vehicles. This is the Highway Department. And I don't have the same question on this one because they're replacing a 350 with a 350. But is there a motion on this one? This is Article 20. And it proposes to buy,
Adopt Article 20.
okay, second.
Who seconded that?
I did.
Thank you, Tom. Accept and adopt.
And that's $395,000 coming from available funds to buy 4 pieces of equipment.
Free cash.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? It's unanimous.
Lower County Road, you have it
That's on a
but
hold.
The
That's
selectmen
what-
did vote to put that on Monday night.
Yeah, that's on hold for us, for
Yeah,
this,
for your-
for this meeting.
For your purposes of your meeting.
Yeah.
And I suggest Article 21 be put off until after Saturday.
We're not voting on it.
Posted it
Oh,
as
it's
a
on
hold on the
On hold.
agenda,
Yeah.
so you probably shouldn't take action on it.
Yeah, I said we're not gonna talk about that one at all, on the agenda, so that one's out completely. Thank you.
It's out for tonight.
Yeah.
Completely, forever. Till we take it up next time. I just wanna make sure we do what my posting says we were gonna do.
Right.
It was tough to put that
Where is
posting.
it here on the agenda?
21, yeah. It's on
If you look
this-
at the agenda, I listed every article that
That
the
was on
selectmen
hold.
had in the warrant, and then I put hold on,
Okay, this is the agenda.
no, not on the agenda, on the posting for the meeting.
That's part of it.
posting here.
Right.
Right.
Yes. On the agenda,
Oh, about
we're
halfway down on
discussing
page
the
2.
articles. All of them.
Right by the middle of page 2.
I tried to do it the same way the selectmen did it. They listed every article.
Well, I see somebody who says agenda.
Yeah, that was,
February 28th. I automatically assume
that was
it's
a
the
verbal,
agenda.
that was a verbal.
Now, what that piece of paper is, I didn't never seen before.
That's your
Oh.
posted,
Will you email it to all of us?
yeah.
Yeah.
You're on 22.
We're on 22, a mobile lift system, projected to be $90,475. Vehicle maintenance. Is there a motion?
I make a motion that we accept and adopt.
Is there a second? Okay. Discussion? Any problems? Any questions?
I would like to know how many of our bigger vehicles actually have to go out for repair, and if this 90,000 is justified expense, that if we, it's a big lift, so it's gonna lift up fire trucks, things like that, which, okay, fine, but how often do they hit maintenance that they have to lift them up off the ground and look at them? And how much does that cost versus the cost of a $90,000 lift?
Probably a better question for Lincoln for the number
Yeah,
of times, but
that
I know
is-
all the fire equipment, maybe with the exception of ambulances, would require this, and I think the Packard trucks, any of the larger dump trucks, I think he needs to have these. The other thing, I think because these are portable, if they need to lift something in the field, they have the ability to obviously move it and lift it in the field. So it has other,
I'm just looking for some
that's a,
justification of,
that's a
do
better
we
question
need it?
for
Yeah.
Lincoln.
Yeah, and once we get that, we can include that into our reason for
Okay.
support or not support. But right now, we have a motion to accept and adopt. We can revisit any of these. Any discussion on that motion at all, more? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 7-0.
As long as we talk to Link about it.
Yeah, we will. It's in the minutes. Okay, next one is road maintenance program, Article 23, which is 7 and 7 deal.
7 and 7 deal.
Let's get a motion before we
Move to
discuss it.
accept and adopt Article 23.
Second?
You want to give us a rundown on that
Yeah,
one?
the only thing on this that's a little bit unusual, in an effort to try to have Lower County Road, we were requested by a board member to see if we could decrease the tax impact of it. So what we did was, traditionally, this language is specifically says that we'll just follow the road maintenance program. Here, we have authorized hopefully you have here, to include also, I don't think she, I'll have to fix this, but to include in there Lower County Road in an effort to decrease the taxpayer cost on it by having the road program have elements of it be deferred up to $1 million. So the Lower County Road project is $5.5 million, and it would become $4.5 million with some of this being deferred and used to supplement Lower County Road.
And I just looked at my sheet, and that's one we had on hold, so I'll ask
Oh,
the
sorry.
person who made the motion, which was Jack, to withdraw his motion, and Tom to withdraw his second, and
Well, the Lower County Road was on hold.
Right,
This
but-
was actually the road maintenance. They did vote the road maintenance program.
yeah, but they did that, they didn't the first week.
After the fact.
Oh, after.
They skipped on the first go-around. So is
Okay.
that all right with you, to withdraw your motion? Withdraw the second?
Withdraw.
We're just gonna, that one's on hold until we,
Because you didn't have hold on your list here, that's why it was,
Oh,
it's not a
that's
hold
it.
on there.
No,
wait a minute.
you're 2
You're-
down.
You're thinking Lower County?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right, you're right, absolutely right. Never mind. We have a motion?
Okay.
You do not need
Still
it.
there.
The motion's still
I-
there,
I
the
hadn't-
second's still
I
there.
hadn't checked down far enough yet.
That's
There I
right.
go. I'm
There
all
you
caught
go.
up now.
Okay.
That's why it had me confused. I'm like, you had hold on everything.
I think those limo fumes.
Right, yeah.
Getting late.
I drove all night last night, so.
It's
I got in-
8:30.
I got in at
It's
4:45 this morning in the
Oh.
snow,
Ouch,
So-
in the snow.
in the snow.
Ugh.
So if I'm a little punchy, I apologize to everybody, everybody.
No worries.
So we have a motion to accept and adopt. Further discussion? None? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous vote. All right. Sorry about that. Back on track. Okay, zoning. Has everybody read all the zoning questions, or do we want to hear planning board reports and those kind of things? There's 1, 2, 3, 4 zoning questions coming up.
I have not read any.
I mean, the only thing, the selectmen have been in coordination with the planning board, and I think the selectmen are supportive of these efforts. Kind of looking at Ed to make sure that that's accurate. But you may want to wait and have them come in and
Yeah.
do a discussion on it. I think they have their public hearing is
Yeah,
March
yeah,
12th, too.
There's time on these, and they haven't dotted all the
March
I's
12th,
across the
public
T's.
hearing?
March
I'd like
12th,
to
I
hear
believe,
it.
is the public
Go through
hearing.
and listen.
So I would entertain a motion on all 4 of these to make no recommendation pending further information.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second,
Yeah.
get that one to Bonnie, she said the same.
Hold on, Jack and Tom,
Need is 4, right,
on all 4.
Who did you put?
Jack and Tom.
Okay.
and is it all 4?
Yep. Discussion, none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous vote, 7-0. Just cruising here.
I don't know if you have a self-imposed 8:30 deadline, but you're at it, so.
Thought we were going to midnight.
Dan needs sleep.
No, I'm actually good. I'm not doing a great job, but I'm actually good. I was hoping that we could maybe get halfway through. 35, is that,
All right, we're good.
huh?
Yeah,
We just-
so we're going half tonight?
We
half
just
the
did
next time?
4, I don't know. If you want to stop, we can stop at 2.
I just,
So,
I heard
How are
8:30,
we,
that's
how
all.
are
I
we
just-
feeling? I need some feedback.
so you think
Keep
we can
going?
get through 8 more? What do we have? Which ones? Let's look at them real quick.
Yeah, that's,
28 is funding the local comprehensive plan, 29 is the library, and then you get the golf ones. The golf ones tend to be a little straightforward.
You get 20,
Just keep going for a little while?
you
yeah.
get 25,
Then you get cemeteries, though. The rules and
Uh-oh.
regs for cemeteries.
Uh-oh. Well, actually, that's pretty cut and dry, the rules and regs.
For most.
For most. Okay, so
You gotta be dead to be
we've done
buried.
4. The next one would be the update the local comprehensive plan.
This is 200,000 is the estimated cost, and it would come from free cash,
It's Article 28.
28.
we're not doing 25,
No, we're holding on those.
Holding
Yeah,
all the
the
zoning ones.
Yeah, we're gonna hold.
28?
28.
28 is provide funding for update of town's local comprehensive plan.
This is outside work? Have to pay for?
Yes,
Yeah.
it would hire an outside consultant to walk
Move
through
to
the
accept
process.
adopt Article 28.
second.
This would come from available funds?
From free cash, yeah.
Free cash. Is there a difference?
In my mind, free cash is free cash. Available funds is anything.
There you
Jack,
go.
and who made the second one? That was that Angela?
Angela.
Angela.
Yeah.
Chris, how long has it been since we did the 5? met
It's
the
every 5
5-year?
years?
Does she have it in here? It was last updated in 2011.
11, so 8 years.
8 years.
Pretty good on a 5-year plan.
8 years later.
Yeah, exactly.
Discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There's a vote.
That was the plan update.
Okay, now we're up to 29.
And software.
Technology for Brooks Library.
Yeah, they just wanted to move, so they had some money left over in old articles, so they wanted to just update some technology. The
So this is all
21,000
coming from old articles.
transfers from old articles.
Move to accept adopt Article 29.
Second.
Second. Oh, Bonnie. Bonnie.
That goes to Bonnie.
That goes to
That goes to
Bonnie.
Bonnie.
Getting the upgrade on the library.
Jump shot, bang.
Discussion on that?
I just want to ask Chris a procedural question on this. When it comes from, money comes from old articles, Chris,
Mhm.
has this money already hit the tax rolls, or when we approve this, it will hit the tax rolls?
It's already been
It's already
voted.
been
Yeah,
voted
it's
for.
leftover money if you would.
Okay.
If it was, there's 2 options, either repurpose it, which is what they're doing here,
Yeah.
or it would fall to free cash. They could declare that it is no longer needed. So instead of having it fall to free cash, they wanted to use it for
Okay.
technology.
So it's,
They're using it within the area that there are certain
Within the
rules
existing
for
area,
it.
but it's
too.
already hit our tax
Right.
Ed,
roll.
It's already
Yeah.
bought and paid for money,
Okay.
if you would.
Ed,
And most of these items were funded out of money we had as opposed to going out to bond.
Yeah.
If you have money left over going out to bond, unless you have a similar project, the only other option is then to refund it. And that costs you more generally.
That's right.
You never want to have to do that.
Do we have any idea of how many articles we have like this that have money that's sitting there waiting?
We generally do.
There's a list, we can get that.
The finance director goes out every year and asks people where they are with their projects.
I'd be curious just to see if we have a lot of these
It's
little
usually
pockets of money.
Not a lot of money usually,
You can ask, Carol
There's an
should
old-
be able to provide
There's an old
that.
sewer article with 20 million in it.
I wish.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, we haven't spent that yet, that's right.
We always,
but that Article 30,
No, we gotta vote this one. All those in favor say aye. Article 29, 21,322.55.
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.
Opposed? Now we're up to golf.
Landscape reclamation,
Reclamation.
35,000. And this is from golf fees.
And the next one's also golf.
Yes. Yeah, if you want to do them together, I
I
mean,
vote we accept and adopt Article 30 and 31.
I'll second.
Second.
Dan said it first, so I gave him credit.
would you give credit to?
Dan,
Okay.
credit.
yeah. You know.
Tie goes to the,
The tie
tie
goes.
goes to the chair to decide.
300 years ago from now, someone's gonna look this up and find out.
Credit, it's on film.
So this is coming from golf revenues. Any discussion on any of these things? They're ongoing programs, been out there for a long time. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous vote. Adopt rules and regs of cemeteries. Speak of the devil.
Dana,
Yes.
probably should add that from versus paid for this.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
the-
Again,
In the notes, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay, so,
Dana, you gonna
I'm
go
gonna
to the
s-
next one?
well, no, I'm gonna suggest that we have a motion to accept and adopt with changes. So if somebody wants to make a motion to accept and adopt,
Article 32.
is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, so I'll move to amend the motion to make the following.
Well, before you
Change.
do that, should we, there's really three things that they're doing here.
Yes.
One is they're changing the location of where the office is. I'm trying to remember the,
We're on the
they had the office down at DPW, so they were on Queen Anne Road. Now they're in the community center. So they relocated their office. Did they change their phone number? There was, the other thing was fairly small. And then the one that I think you're gonna hear is the third element on page 30, all Christmas decorations must be
Well,
removed by January.
the second change was to take the cemetery off from
Yeah.
down.
Oh, to take the cemetery, thank you, to take the cemetery off here because we had a ruling that it's not town cemetery, technically is the congregation church cemetery.
Oh,
So we shouldn't list that if it's no longer ours or anticipated
right.
or believed to be ours. Right way to say that is.
So that's what this is doing, which is why I don't think it should just be rejected like we did last year. Last year, they were trying to do just the one thing, change the rules. This year, they're trying to do three things. I agree with the other two, but the rules are back here. So I would
Plans
move,
back on again?
what's that?
They put the
up
plans.
You got the plans again?
Yeah, so I would move to amend this motion. In cemetery lots, section 3, to go down to item number 10 and remove the last sentence, all Christmas decorations must be removed by January 31st. Anything left on the grave will be removed by the cemetery personnel. And take out number 11, items left on, at or on the lots after burial will be removed after 1 week. And item 12, the above rules will be strictly enforced, and then renumber the other 13 through 16. So that's my amendment. Is there a second on the amendment?
I second.
Discussion on the amendment. I'll go first. First of all, in terms of the Christmas stuff, they don't start cleaning up until March 1st. So to have this even in there is crazy. And this is for the benefit of the cleanup people and the look of it and all that kind of stuff, but I would rather get them more help if we need it than to change how we dictate people will grieve. Cemeteries know enough about the industry to know that it's a very personal thing to people, and everybody's on just different schedules, especially in a location that has a transient population where they're coming down to visit from different times and different things. People put stuff around there at Christmas time, but some of the relatives don't get down there until March. And it's all gonna be ripped up and changed, and if there's I don't know, I have just lots of problems with this. I read it last year, and the selectmen changed their mind. I read it last year, and we all voted to not go along with this. And it's thrown in here this year, and if it's in here next year, I'm gonna start opening up all the rules. You start reading all these rules, we could start questioning every one of them. It's to their benefit, and it's not to the public's benefit. That's my comment on the amendment. Discussion on the amendment, further discussion.
I had one question. So why was I agree with you on most of it, but why was the article on Christmas decorations, what was the specific reason this was added here? Was somebody complaining?
I think, and this
I'm just
was,
curious.
the cemetery administrator was at a meeting, she said that people, put a lot of material out, and then it dies, and then it makes it look kind of trashy. She wanted to have the ability to have, when people go through and clean it, to just remove those items. So I think they were doing it from an aesthetic standpoint, I think is what I recall her saying.
Yep.
And other reasons is that during winter, where we get the big windstorms, the materials start getting blown around the cemetery.
Okay.
Blown onto other people's lots that they don't particularly like them.
Yeah, I was just curious if people were complaining in the town.
The issue about items left on lots after burial, typically those items are plant wreaths and things like that, which start after a month or a week, start basically turning brown and souring,
And I don't have a problem with people voluntarily keeping their own plots. They do it a lot out there, but I have a problem when we dictate it.
Would we have the same issue for Memorial Day?
It's a question for how they interpret this. I'm sure there's a section in here on Memorial Day and so forth, but there's a lot of rules that go with this.
I mean, item 11 probably covers Memorial Day. Items left at or on lots after burial will be removed after 1 week. Well, that's actually after burial, so.
Yeah.
I don't know why they didn't specifically do Memorial Day.
I'm curious. I know that I don't particularly like to walk around a cemetery that looks like it's a big mess, but I don't know what the rules are in most other cemeteries. Is this consistent with what is generally used in cemeteries or all the other cemeteries on the Cape or in Massachusetts? You do whatever you want to do.
There's a wide range. There are some cemeteries that have really strict rules about heights of stones and for mowing purposes and those kinds of
I'm
things.
just talking the cleaning part like this.
And there's a range on that as well. There's a range on how quick they do it, how lenient they are, whatever. I just think in this community, I personally am not in favor of this approach. Ed is in favor of this.
Well, traditionally, Harwich, the rules on what you're allowed to put on gravestones, et cetera, for Christmas, or, people put stuff out to celebrate birthdays or anniversaries of the date of death. They come and do different things. Harwich is considered, Harwich cemeteries are very lenient in what's allowed to be put out. Put it up after an appropriate time. You can be lenient, but especially after Christmas, where, like you said, people disappear. Nobody comes and cleans it up until it's blown all over.
The only,
Cemetery.
the cemetery administrator, I believe she was the chair of the cemetery administrators, association, so she would have access to see how other people do it, so
I was just curious.
yeah, but I don't know in
I
terms
can
of
understand what they say.
a better question for
I
her.
mean, I've been consistent on this even, for 30 years now. I've been saying that we shouldn't, this has been proposed half a dozen times.
Yeah, all things that you're
Yeah.
consistent.
Because actually, if you go on number 10, if you go read the whole thing, just not the Christmas part, it does talk about flags. It does talk about, you can put them there, and they're just disclaiming that if they get stolen or damaged, they're not responsible for any flags you put on it, which is fine. And it's also, if you do plantings that they become unsightly, they have the right to remove them because it's just trash in the rest of the cemetery. So that is covered here in number 10, all the other situations. So it's more, I'm thinking like the grave blankets, things like that, that again, after a week or so, they get all dried out and brown and they blow God knows where, so. But, if you gotta live it at Christmas, what if I put a Halloween thing on because my brother likes Halloween? So,
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
You can get into all kinds of those things. So the amendment, any further discussion on that? Would you remove those three sentences and renumber? All those in favor of the amendment, say aye. Aye. Opposed? And the amendment is unanimous. We're back to the main motion as amended. Any discussion on that? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 1. So it's 6-1.
6-1, who was the?
Angelo, that man.
that guy.
I don't need things. I'm gonna be buried there someday.
Well,
33.
Oh.
Oops. We're on 33.
Jack, you have a question?
33, right?
Yeah.
33. I move we accept adopt Article 33.
Okay, can you tell me what it is?
Cemetery Arboretum
Arboretum.
Project, mapping and
Oh, yeah,
software,
yep.
$30,000. This is coming from cemetery funds.
I'll second it.
It's moved and seconded, so, Jack.
where are we? 33?
33.
Page
I
32
got
of
it.
the material.
I got it, thanks. It's late.
33 on 32.
33.
We're almost done, folks.
Yes.
Discussion on that one?
Is this two separate requests? There's an Arboretum project and mapping and software.
Yeah, there's two things to this in the capital plan. This is actually to do mapping and software to show what the location is going to be. And then if we want to bring in additional plants, there'll be a supplemental request that will be made that will actually implement some of the elements that are highlighted in this. So they're going to do a mapping and software to see, this is an arboretum, so this is taking a cemetery. In order to be an arboretum, you have to have like 30 different tree species. There are different requirements. So if we only have 28, we need to plant those other 2. She'll be back with a supplemental request.
So this is
Ed.
mapping software for mapping what?
The Arboretum project,
Trees or grave sites?
Both.
No,
Both.
the trees.
the trees.
Landscaping, the trees.
For the Arboretum. it's
Where to
for
put
the
them.
trees. They will also be,
They'll be on a map.
they've done the resurvey.
But I thought this was for identifying grave sites.
That they've already done. They did over the last 10 years, they resurveyed and relocated all of the plot lines because they found that bodies were wandering.
They like to move around.
They needed to be tested.
That's a different piece of equipment.
No,
It's a
this-
big piece of
this is-
equipment.
It's not my understanding. In talking to Robin, I thought this was an app for your phone.
Yes.
So like, go to my phone, this right here,
Yeah.
I could go to
The
my phone
trees.
and find out where
Both,
different
actually.
wheels buried. That's my
Well,
understanding.
I mean, you can add in those features, but the purpose of, I mean, we're getting partially this is being funded out of the grant to establish the Arboretum.
You got a grant?
She's applying for a
Yes.
grant to
Fine.
fund the,
Yes.
yeah, to fund the Arboretum project
And
itself.
that'll pay for,
But she hasn't got the grant.
no, she hasn't, and if she doesn't get the grant, this will not be enough money to complete the project. It's
What's the cost of the project?
It may be worthwhile to have her come in to kind of walk through.
And
this.
also, this is software. Software usually includes monthly maintenance item.
Usually annual ongoing maintenance.
Right, you have to does this include this annual maintenance for a year or 2 years, or?
We need to have her in here for that. It's just too much detail.
Okay, so right now, just to know where we are, we have a motion to accept and adopt. Probably if that doesn't, either way, we can get answers to questions. She'll be at the budget day, right, Saturday?
I
I think she is, yeah.
think she's on the
So we can
schedule.
get answers to those questions, and may change our position if this carries, and if it doesn't carry, we can do a new motion. So right now, any other comments on accept and adopt? Did you have a question?
Well,
She is on for the afternoon.
I did have a comment because I know Cape Tech down here, Dave Consalvi, the horticulture guy, walked with her. He had his kids do the whole thing, which was a great project for the kids. They got to identify, I think we actually met
I
enough
think we have
trees.
30.
Yeah, I think we had enough trees, which was great. And it's a good ongoing project for anybody, to the scouts, anybody could go through and identify plants and trees, and it's a good opportunity for them. I am not sure if it ties in with her existing Find a Grave app as opposed to Find a Tree app. And I don't know if they're combined or not.
I believe that's what this does, is combine it. So when you go there, you see the site, and then you know where the different trees are too. But
And-
instead of me guessing, I think it'd be better
I'd like to
have
talk
it
to
on
her and make
Saturday.
sure
Yeah.
that we're not,
The software package will allow that.
but is it there already?
This is what?
What do we have right now?
We don't have anything.
Okay.
So we had a 10-year thing.
We have the physical survey that's done to provide points where, so you can locate the plots. This will put it onto a GIS.
Probably a GIS
database,
platform.
which then can be loaded into the app. For the Arboretum project, it's for locating the trees. One of the things that can be added onto it is you can add in the grave database to that, and you can do things like, okay, show me the grave sites of women authors in Island Pond, and it will, you can do all sorts of things. You can walk out and to Jimmy Marcelline's thing and have loaded into the program somebody who talks and gives you the history and biography.
Let's gotta fix that. That happens all the time with him.
Well, I think maybe we should have a little show and tell if Robert could come.
It's quite powerful, but that whole project of adding in information about the graves and the people and locating them is something that will have to be added on slowly over the years, because it's a fair amount of work.
Jack?
And more money.
Chris, can we schedule Robin separate from the Saturday thing, or if we have a show and
Sure, if we ask her, she'll come.
I think because she's coming in on Saturday, I mean, and
We might be able to get
you
that
may
answer.
be able to
right
just
now.
ask the question, she may have a better answer. Well, she'll definitely have a better answer than
Yeah.
I'm able to give you.
I think this needs an explanation,
Right.
clearly.
Yeah.
So I think the show and
Yeah,
tell
if
will
you-
The
help.
motion right now is to accept and adopt. Any discussion further on that motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. So we can revisit it, we can ask questions.
I oppose it then.
Okay.
So wait a minute,
6 to
what's
1.
6 to 1?
Why are we approving something we don't know the answers to?
Because it's easy.
Because we can change it.
If you do get the satisfactory answer, then it stands, so.
Why don't we vote then?
I haven't heard anything in the questions that says I'm gonna be opposed to this when it comes. I don't know.
We don't know the cost. This isn't the cost. More to it.
Well, there's more to the project, yeah, but we have a grant we're applying for to get that. I mean, I don't, that's just,
We don't have a.
Mr. Chairman, I think it's going on.
right, we have, the next two are on hold anyway, so we have completed the first 35, minus the ones that are on hold. So, we did really good work tonight. I know some people are out here and there over the next several weeks. I know that the chairman of the Chatham Finance Committee is securing a spot for us to meet on the 20th or 21st, whatever date I gave you. And him and I are finalizing the agenda for that one. We'll have that one posted, so any of us that can make that meeting with Chatham Finance Committee. And off we go. We'll see you all Saturday. I'll be there with coffee and goods.
You know I'm on vacation.
Yes, and you're on vacation. Have a wonderful time. Thanks for
In
coming
Aruba.
tonight.
So March 21st, Chatham?
Good time to be going.
Put it down.
Yeah.
No, don't put it down. I'll send it to everybody. I want to hear back from him that yes, he did get a place. He's got his people, he just needs a place.
What about doing the next 35 days? Any other times that you want to look at?
I'm not going to schedule anything else next week after this Saturday, but then the following week I will. We'll do. Yeah, we got to make sure we get through the ones that we have holds on. The whole list is down to 3 now, and that's going to be cleaned up right away. We don't have a budget, an official budget from the Board of Selectmen yet, but that's something else that has to be worked out in the charter, I think.
Like I said, last year, technically, they never voted the budget, so the administrator's budget went through and then was amended a few times, so.
Yep.
You have
Probably
someplace to
amended
start
again.
from.
I hope you're ready for that. It'll
Are we
probably be
still
amended
recording?
again.
Yeah.
Any,
Yeah, shut it off.
can we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming tonight.
Oh.